I need your help, Juke. I need to understand how to do this right, how to be here for you, how to be a father.
Will Marvin survive Season 4? That's the question we are going to be diving deep into in today's breakdown, because this is a topic which kind of divides the fanbase at this moment in time. I think a lot of people definitely love Marvin's character. They've really warmed to him because of his transformation, his caring nature, his family first mentality, the way he's adapted, changed, and built this relationship with Jukebox, which really did seem like a lost cause after Season 1. He's also been there for Lou, and we are going to go through his transformation in a bit more detail in this breakdown. But come the end of this video, we do have to ask the question, will Marvin survive Season 4? Now, just before we get into Marvin's transformation, I did want to discuss something Sasha Penn said on Marvin's character. Chronicles of Power, which is run by Kimi, who does a really great job on Instagram, and I would highly recommend giving them a follow. At this moment in time, I don't believe the full interview has been released, but if it has, I will link that down below in the description section. Now, she did an interview with Sasha Penn where they spoke about various topics. Breeze was definitely a topic which is something they touched on, but it is also a topic which I said I'm kind of done discussing until we get official confirmation. But they also spoke a little about Marvin, and he basically said, it is kind of remarkable how that character has now turned, to your point, the most beloved character on the show. And the things I hear the most often are, who is Breeze? And if you do anything to Marvin, it's going to get real personal and real scary. And look, I have to completely agree. Over the course of breaking down Season 3, I did say a few times, if something were to happen to Marvin, Power fans would riot, and Sasha Penn seems to know the Power fans really love Marvin's character. And when we kind of go through his transformation in the next few minutes, we do have to give kudos to the writers for completely flipping the script with Marvin's character, but also London Brown for absolutely bodying the role of Marvin. I do think it goes both ways. The writing has been really good when it comes to raising Kanan across the board, but you also have to have the right person to bring it to life. And London Brown has absolutely nailed it. So, with that being said, let's run through his transformation, what we saw from Marvin, and then we're definitely going to come back around to the all-important question of whether Marvin will survive Season 4, along with my general thoughts, theories, and predictions. Now, taking it all the way back to Season 1, they did give us a clear idea of the structure of the Thomas organization from the jump. Rock was the head of the Thomas organization and Lou was her right-hand man. Marvin was a part of their operation, but because of his reckless nature, he was kind of given the lesser role, because he never really had the full trust of Rock. During a few conversations where Marvin was telling Rock the deal in the streets, she'd always kind of look to Lou for confirmation, and this stems from a few things. Marvin was actually someone who was leading the Thomas organization before he did a short stint in Elmira for using and also selling product from his own home.
Here we go.
You want to start your own shit? Make your own calls, have at it. But if the past taught us anything, it's that you're not made to sit in this seat, to walk in these fucking shoes. So how about you shut the fuck up and let me speak to my son?
So, as we kind of progressed through Season 1, it was quite clear as to why Rock had Marvin playing the position he was playing in Season 1. It was mistake after mistake. From bringing Kanan to move the stash from the house to the bodega, to putting a body in the wall in their new apartments, and also bodies that dropped in the streets from Kanan's Bad Batch. Even though Kanan was mostly responsible, Marvin was the one who brought Kanan in. So, in Season 1, Marvin really had a turbulent relationship with Rock and also Lou. The relationship between the siblings wasn't exactly the best. However, they definitely did drop a few clues and hints as to what kind of character Marvin was. Despite his mistakes, he was still and always will be family first. He'll never give up on his family, which is something he said to a man who was walking his dog, who had a tumor on his spine, which resulted in the dog not being able to use his back legs. And ironically, fast forward, I'm not too sure whether this was an intentional foreshadow by the writers, but who came to save Marvin later on? It was Demo, who also wasn't able to use his legs. But for majority of Season 1, it was mistake after mistake, which also extended to Jukebox.
How come the principal never stepped to you about this, Juke?
She did, but you said it was gonna be a waste of time. That all them white folks down there was never gonna give me a real chance.
Now, you kind of really did get the sense that there was some real distance between Marvin and Juke. And just some background information in regards to Hailey Kilgore and London Brown. Hailey Kilgore, who plays Juke, did do an interview where she did admit they did kind of keep their distance from each other behind the scenes on purpose, because they really wanted to bring that disconnect onto the screen. We're also used to seeing the power actors being like a big family, and no doubt they probably are, but during the early stages of filming, they did keep their distance. There was a real lack of connection between Marvin and Juke, which probably stems from Marvin not being there for a large portion of Duke's childhood. Again, let's not forget, he did do that short stint in Elmira at a time where Duke was very young. That's when Rock took her in, and you could really see how much love Duke and Rock had for each other. He also wasn't kind of accepting in Duke's sexuality, which was kind of a big thing back then. It really wasn't accepted, which is where we saw the huge fight between Marvin and Duke, which really left their relationship on the brink. And at the time, I really did wonder, can they ever come back from this? So, on to season 2. Now, nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm sure we've all done or said something that we probably regret in the past. But the most important thing is learning and moving forward, growing and being a better person. And that's the position that Marvin was in. Marvin certainly wasn't perfect, but at least he acknowledged that he isn't. He acknowledged that he made a lot of mistakes. He also acknowledged that he had an anger problem. He listened, learned, and took on what Renee taught him. He knew that he wasn't the father that he should have been to Duke, and he tried to put things right. Of course, it was always going to be a really tough uphill battle to rebuild this broken relationship, especially because of what they went through at the end of season 1. But through determination, with Marvin working on himself, he made the impossible possible. And during season 3, I did mention, if Marvin was to fix his relationship with Jukebox, he first had to kind of look at himself and fix himself. He had to change and understand the mistakes that he made, understand that he had to control his temper, and learn how to be a father that Duke wanted him to be. When Kenya kind of came along and everything that went down with Duke's mom, that was his moment, but there was still a very long way to go, baby steps. Now, in terms of his position with the Thomas organization, he was definitely playing his part, doing what needed to be done and holding the organization down. But for majority of season 2, the story arc for Marvin's character was all about self-development and growth. From his relationship with the Thomases, Duke, to even Sam the Crackhead, Marvin was showing that he was really determined to change, and that definitely continued into season 3. Now in season 3, while Lou was in complete turmoil, Marvin became Rock's go-to. Marvin became the guy to get shit done and get shit done right. But not only did he step up within the Thomas organization, this was a season where he really began to put a lot more effort into his relationship with Duke.
Why wouldn't you give this shit a shot? I mean, you've been wanting to do the singing thing since you came out your mom's.
Before, we kind of saw Marvin brush Duke singing aside, but this time, as Lou was the one who was actually letting Duke down, Marvin was the one who was there for her, backing her every single step of the way. Even when Duke had doubts about whether she wanted to continue singing, he was there to remind her to go for it. There were moments in season 3 which still kind of proved definitely challenging. After all, Marvin was still learning how to be a father to Duke, and he was still going to make mistakes. It was normal. As I mentioned before, nobody is perfect. But, like I also mentioned, the difference this time was Marvin wanted to learn. He wanted to listen to Duke. He wanted to be a better father. And Duke definitely acknowledged and appreciated that from Marvin. Another huge story involving Marvin was with Gerald. Gerald was someone who he met in his anger management class in season 2. And I think the only question that we had when it came to Marvin's character in season 3, even though he was showing he was a lot more aware of his surroundings, being more careful with Lou being the reckless one, the only question was Marvin being watched by an undercover agent? We know law enforcement were hot on Rock's heels, and that meant Marvin was. Law enforcement targeted the one person they believed was to be the weak link in the Thomas organization, through Gerald. There was also the mention of Tony Deep at the park bench. He was also asking Marvin about the connection between Bulletproof Records and the Italian Mafia, but also dropped that he might be speaking to a friend who works from the NYPD, which is where we began to see Marvin kind of turn. And Marvin really was hurt by Gerald's betrayal as soon as he found out. Marvin put a lot of work into changing as a person. He was there for Gerald in a really bad moment, and he was also there for his daughters. But we all know law enforcement. Agent Tanner used a similar blackmailing tactic to what Cooper Saxe and John Mark did with Joe Proctor in Power. But what that also did was, it sent him over the edge, and he ended up just like Sam the Crackhead. Now, that didn't stop law enforcement from chasing Marvin, and they did come very, very close. I actually even thought at one point there may even be a possibility where Marvin could have actually gone down. If Rock never got rid of Howard at the warehouse with Ronnie, who knows what could have happened, and who knows what could still actually happen in season 4. Law enforcement will always be in and around the mix. Agent Tanner definitely isn't going anywhere, and with him having Famous cornered, who knows whether this could kind of reignite the case against the Thomases. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Agent Tanner, and maybe even a new member of law enforcement, will be hot on their heels. With Burke's death, and also with Howard's death towards the end of season 3, maybe they bring in another member of law enforcement who's really ruthless with his approach, just like they did with Ghost Season 4. Detective Don Carter really shook things up for Tariq and the rest of the crew on Ghost, so maybe it's about time someone did that for raising Kanan. Give Rock a real problem to deal with. Imagine if Marvin was locked up for a period of time, her trusted right-hand man. Who would she turn to then? Would Lou be ready to step up again? It's definitely worth a thought. Now, as we've kind of moved over to the storylines for Season 4, I do think Marvin will be an ever-present important piece in Rock's organization. That definitely won't change. He's shown that he's very important in all aspects. I'm sure he'll also be there for his brother. However, where do they take Marvin and Duke's relationship in Season 4? Interestingly, she hasn't told Marvin that she was thinking about joining the military. She only told Aisha, Kanan, and Rock. So, whether she tells Marvin and whether he approves, who knows. In terms of their relationship, I think it's just going to continue to grow and continue to get stronger and stronger. I think we're going to see some real father and daughter moments, them becoming a lot closer than they once were. But, judging by the teaser, is Marvin bringing her into the game? Could he be potentially asking her to deal with someone for the Thomas organization? Why is Marvin handing her a piece? So, aside from their relationship growing and becoming a bit stronger, I am interested to see what kind of cause this, and also who Duke could be pointing her gun towards. Is Marvin giving her a gun to protect herself, or is he asking her to get rid of someone for the Thomases? Now, this is where we definitely have to come back around to the all-important question. What happens with Marvin's character in Season 4? Will Marvin survive? I think when we talk about Jukebox being broken piece by piece, I genuinely feel like Marvin is the last one. If and when something happens to Marvin, that will be the end of Laverne Thomas. These rare smiles and rare happy moments that we kind of get from time to time from Duke, it's definitely going to be gone. They need to give us the answers as to why Jukebox became this type of person that we were introduced to in Power, and I do feel like Marvin is a huge important piece on Duke's chessboard. You see where the writers are kind of taking their relationship, and it's also there in plain sight. We know what they're eventually going to have to do. But will it happen in Season 4? Now, in my opinion, and it is just a gut feeling, I don't think it's time to say goodbye to Marvin just yet. I think once Season 4 gets going, maybe I might change my mind. Maybe some of you guys in the comment section will also make a good case for me to change my mind. But at this moment in time, as I'm rewatching Raising Kanan, I still kind of feel there is a bit more story to be told when it comes to Marvin's character arc. I think in Season 5, I think anybody is fair game. And I can even see him going out sacrificing himself for Duke and maybe also the Thomases as a whole. He is that type of character that would go out in a blaze of glory to protect the ones he loves. It really would be a sad moment, but I think to get to Duke's character closer to the character we saw on Power, she has to continue rebuilding this relationship with Marvin, only for her to lose him. But I still think they can take it up a gear in terms of Marvin's character development, his relationships, and the love that the Power fans have for his character, only to be hit in the most unexpected way. Again, I don't think it will happen in Season 4, but in Season 5, I definitely think he is a death that could potentially happen. I can definitely see him sacrificing himself to save his loved ones, which really would suck all the humanity left out of Duke. So, that's a breakdown of where we are with Marvin with a few thoughts, theories and predictions, and now the floor is yours. The question I'm going to ask you guys, which I know will divide a few opinions in the comment section, but keeping your emotions to one side of how you feel for Marvin's character, do you really think Marvin will survive come the end of Season 4? I personally think he will, based on what we just went through. I do think there still is another leg for his story arc, but let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.